Let's dive into something that might seem simple on the surface, but is one of the most crucial skills for any product leader: asking good questions. The quality of the questions you ask directly impacts the quality of your product, and by the end of this module, I'll show you exactly how to ask questions that get to the heart of what users and stakeholders really need. I've developed this approach over years of product development, working with teams of all sizes, and I'm going to share with you exactly how to gather better insights and validate ideas more effectively. We'll break this down into 4 key steps you can use immediately in your work. Let's start with step 1, finding the right people to ask. This might seem straightforward if you're already familiar with your team and company, but identifying the right individuals requires intentional effort and strategy. When I talk about finding the right people, I mean being deliberate about who you approach for insights, not just defaulting to whoever is most accessible or vocal. The quality of information you receive is directly tied to speaking with the right individuals who have the relevant knowledge, experience, or perspective you need. When I join a new organization or prepare to interview someone important, I do my homework. I look them up on LinkedIn. I ask others about them. I check if they've published anything or what kind of work they've been doing. I write all of this down in my notes to help prepare for meetings. This may sound a little overboard, but it's incredibly helpful to understand a person's context, priorities, and what motivates them. This preparation demonstrates respect for their time and helps you ask more relevant questions. But here's a crucial step many product leaders miss. Before even scheduling that formal interview, reach out informally to validate if they're the right person to speak with. A quick message saying, "I'm looking to learn more about X, and someone suggested you might have insights. Do you think you'd be the right person to talk with about this, or is there someone else you'd recommend?" This preliminary check can save everyone time and lead you to better sources. And remember, the people in finding the right people is deliberately plural. You should talk to multiple individuals. I typically aim for 5 to 8 people when researching a new problem space or feature. This range provides enough diversity of perspective while remaining manageable. If you start hearing the same feedback repeatedly without new insights emerging, that's usually a good signal you've reached sufficient coverage and can stop adding more participants. With the right participants identified through this careful approach, you can focus on asking the right questions in the right ways, which brings us to our next critical skill. Step 2 is asking the right things in the right ways. This is where we need to talk about the mom test. Here's what that means. If you have a product idea and take it to your mom saying, "Mom, I want to build this business. What do you think?" What's she going to say? Of course she'll say, "It's wonderful." She's your mom. The mom test is about asking questions in a way that doesn't automatically elicit a positive response. Or people will often tell you what they think you want to hear for all sorts of reasons. Maybe they like you or want to make you go away faster, or perhaps they're just being polite. Let me share one of my favorite techniques. Instead of directly asking about your idea, ask questions in a way where people don't even realize they're being interviewed. Let's say you have an idea for a new mobile app feature. You're at a conference or a bar or a party somewhere. Instead of launching into your pitch, you guide the conversation naturally. You might say, "Hey, have you ever used one of those dating apps?" They say yes. Now you've identified a potential target audience member. Then you might say, "Man, one of the things I really struggle with is," and describe the problem you think you found. See how they react to it. If they empathize with the problem or echo it, you might be onto something. As an important side note, someone even cleverer than me came up with the mom test. Check out the resources section in this chapter for a link to the book. Now let's move to step 3, triangulation. This is where I see a lot of product people stumble. They identify a problem and immediately start working to solve it. That makes sense, right? That's our job. But they skip a crucial step, determining if the problem is actually worth solving. When I say worth solving, I mean, will people actually pay for that solution? Is this problem big enough that it deserves attention? Let me share 3 powerful techniques to figure this out. First is what I call price ranking. You give the interviewee $100. You could even use paper money in person and say, "Here are 10 features. Allocate your money between these features however you want." That budgeting exercise gives you great insight into how people value different features relative to each other. The second tool is the Sean Ellis test. See, if you ask someone, "Is this product valuable?" or "Do you like this?" or "Would you use this?" Well, you're right back at the mom test. They'll probably say yes. Even if you ask, "Would you pay for it?" They might say, "Maybe, yeah, I totally would." Spending imaginary money on a product that doesn't exist costs someone nothing. and they'll happily do it to make you happy. But the Sean Ellis test flips it around. Instead, you ask, how disappointed would you be on a scale of 1 to 5 if this no longer existed? If people think about it and say, 2 out of 5, that's a failure. It fails the Sean Ellis test. You don't have product market fit. If you're not getting 4s or 5s on that disappointment scale, nobody actually cares about your thing enough to pay for it or use it regularly. The third technique is what I call the workaround question. Its goal is to figure out how someone is solving the problem that your product aims to solve. Let's say someone acknowledges your problem exists. Great, now ask them, how are you handling this today? If their current solution only takes a few seconds, or if they completely ignore the problem and leave it unsolved because it's not that big a deal, you don't have a big enough problem to solve for your product to be viable. I see this a lot in automation. People come up with ideas to save others time, but they only save seconds. For automation to be worth paying for, it needs to save more than just a few seconds, unless the steps happen tens of thousands of times. In that case, yeah, automate that sucker. Here's a crucial tip when you get into these conversations. Play dumb. This fourth step doesn't mean pretending to be unintelligent. It means consciously avoiding assumptions about what people mean. When someone says something like, this feature is confusing, don't assume that you know what makes it confusing. Dig deeper with questions like, what specifically confuses you about it? Or, can you walk me through where you got stuck? Don't assume you understand their feelings about the issue either. Ask, how does that affect your work? Or, what impact does that have on you? Playing dumb means being genuinely curious and never assuming you know the next steps, implications, or underlying motivations. Keep asking why multiple times to get to the root cause. This approach often reveals insights that would have remained hidden if you'd nodded along, pretending to understand completely. This brings us to step 5, follow-up. Like everything in the Agile world, it's about feedback loops. Now, you might not be working in an Agile software development team or an Agile space, and that's fine. If this concept of feedback loops is new to you, we'll talk about it more in this course. It's just a helpful life practice. You need to check in with people later and see if they still feel the same way after time passes. Sometimes, people will think more about their answers and change their minds. They'll learn more, products will change, and new things will ship. What they once thought was interesting or valuable might shift completely. I'm seeing this a lot these days with chat clients. Here's a new group chat, tokenized chat, private chat. It has different features and widgets and integrates with different devices, lets you send different kinds of files and connects with people in different ways. But you know what? I've already got 7 different chat options. I don't need another one. Yet I still see people building and pitching new ones. If someone had pitched one of these to me 5 or 10 years ago, I would have said, yes, I need that. But these days, not so much. That's why you need to check in regularly. I recommend at least quarterly with your key stakeholders or customers. I meet with some stakeholders every other week or at least monthly to get feedback and follow up on previous discussions. The longest I'd go is about a year, but quarterly is good for maintaining that relationship. Let's wrap up what we've covered. We've talked about finding the right people to ask, asking questions that pass the mom test, validating if a problem is worth solving, and maintaining effective feedback loops. Remember, you have all the tools and intelligence you need to get good information, but you have to take responsibility for finding the right people, understanding them, asking the right questions in the right ways, and digging in to determine if the answers you're getting are sincere and representative. In our next module, we'll build on these fundamentals and look at how to run effective feedback sessions throughout your product development lifecycle. We'll cover different types of meetings, how to set expectations, and when to use synchronous versus asynchronous communication.